Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Owen here, and today I'm gonna talk about the difference between PT academic test and IELTS. So this is the kind of question that I've been asking quite a lot myself, and a lot of my friends have also been wondering, which one is actually better to take? Is it IELTS or is it PTE? Well, I guess the short answer is in most cases, I would say PT academic is better. So you want to take those tests for the first time and you don't know which one to take and you haven't committed any time to study both types of tests, I would suggest strongly to study PTE instead of IELTS. But again, the benefit of IELTS is it is an old version of like the oldest version of English exam in the world. So it is going to be accepted much more widely compared to, let's say, PT academic. But then that being said, it all really depends on your purpose because some institutions won't accept PT academics as English tests for certain purposes, for example. So, so it's going back to what's your purposes of taking the English test for the first time. If it is academic purposes, like you want to go to the universities, I think these days most institutions do accept both exams as part of satisfying their English requirements. And and the second purpose that you guys might encounter as well, pretty commonly after you finish your uni and graduate and stuff, is to apply for a visa or permanent visa. In this case, Australian Department of Immigration, they do accept both kind of tests these days, both IELTS and PT academics. And usually, what happened is in point-based testings, you really need to aim to a ridiculously high marks. Like for IELTS, you need to get at least 8 in every single component: speaking, reading, listening, writing. And for same thing for PTE, and the standard for PTE is 79 out of 90. Um, so from the outset, it seems like those two are fair games. Like those two should be equally achievable or equally hard to get. But from my experience, though, PT academics are so much easier to get, about 79 compared to the IELTS 8. In fact, I have tried IELTS 4 times in my life, in different time periods, obviously, but I never satisfied those requirements, like above 8 in all units, ever. Whereas for PTE, I got I got perfect score, and all components are above 79 when I tried it for the very first time. So it is so much easier, and all of my friends who got like perfect superior English, 20 plus points for immigrations, they we do take PT instead of IELTS. And there's been lots of debate on the internet, for example, that whether it is correct to actually suggest that PD academics is so much easier than IELTS. And I tend to be strongly agree on that. For me, in my opinion, the reason why IELTS is so much harder is because the providers of the IELTS exam simply make it much more harder to get those required marks, especially in countries like Australia, because they know for certain there are so many people here who desperately need those points in order to apply for the visa. So there are much more incentive for them to kind of fail people on some of the bands so that they won't get visa. And when they don't get visa, they will retake the test. They will take more English tuitions in Australia, which are going to give them more money naturally. And this is also a critical point. So for you guys, So if you ever apply for like IELTS or PT academic exams, and they usually like kind of ask you what's the purpose of taking that test, I would suggest to you guys, don't answer it honestly, and never tell them that you are taking those tests to get the visa. Um, because from my experience, at least from experience among me and my friends, usually when you say that you're applying for a visa, they kind of manipulate your marks downwards a little bit so that you won't get the required points, so that you'll take the tuition, you will take the test, and stuff like that. Because what happened is, if you are applying for visa, people tend to get like super desperate and they will retake it like 20 times in some scenarios. I've heard, you can Google it up, but I think the record for Australian visa is like 30 times or something. And yeah, it's not definitely not nice. So, if you spend like tens of thousands of dollars just to pass the bloody IELTS test. And what about PTE? They can do the same thing, right? Well, PTE is kind of different because they're the new kid on the block. Like a couple of years ago, there were pretty much very limited places where you can take PT tuition or even take the PT test itself. But these days, it's more commonplace. But still, they still really want to get the market share of English language testing in Australia. And in order to get those market share, they're kind of a bit more generous at giving marks. When people are much more happy to take the PT instead of IELTS, they'll get the market share. So they're not really looking to, promote their tuition or, you know, force people to retake the test multiple times. They're just there to kind of make some people happy, so they tell their friends, and more people are taking PTE instead of IELTS, and they um, take over the market share from IELTS. And yeah, that's pretty much their whole purpose in Australia at the moment. So it is a very good chance for you guys to take this opportunity and do PT exam instead of IELTS. This might change in the future though, but I'll keep you guys informed. But really, if you guys are really looking to get the best, like the easiest option to get the superior English for the purpose of your visa, really aim for PT. Don't take IELTS. And that being said, that's wholly my opinion. So, it's not really like what I'm saying is 100% true. I'm not really sure if I'm like 100% true myself. But in my opinion, at least, usually PT is so much easier than IELTS for most of your purposes. And yeah, that's it from me for tonight. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you next time with more tips and tricks of, making your study and working enjoyable in Australia as an international student. See you next time. Peace out.